Welcome to the Big Bad Wolf Podcast, episode 3. My name is Kamo Phasha, the Bad Wolf himself. Unfortunately, today we couldn't have my partner, JB Swana, but we will be able to carry on the show without him. It's UFC 253, Adesanya versus Costa. One of the most anticipated fights of the year. Co-main event, Dominik Reyes versus Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title vacated by Jon Jones. Today I'm going to be taking you through the two stories of the fights and how they came about, and also picking the winners for this fight. Starting off with the main event, Adesanya versus Costa. Long in the making, two undefeated fighters. 19-0 Israel Adesanya, 13-0 Paulo the Razor Costa. This is going to be a big one. Looking at Costa, he's come out from a very tough upbringing in Brazil. His brother was a professional fighter, made his way through the ranks of the jungle rules, fighting in Latin America, all the way to the UFC. It hasn't been an easy road for him. I remember his first fight in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, was UFC Fight Night 106, where he took on our very own South African Gareth McLennan and finished him in the first round. I mean, this guy was on an absolute roll. He went on to win 5 in a row. First round knockouts up until his very last fight. He's knocked everybody out except one man, Yoel Romero. Arguably the toughest man in the middleweight division. He's had 3 title fights. Unfortunately, he's lost all of them. But he's the one and only man to take Paulo Costa to the distance. After that loss that he took to Paulo Costa, what would you believe happened next? He took on Adesanya for the title. So the one man that they've both fought, Paulo Costa, I must say, did a much more impressive job. But if we look at Israel Adesanya's career, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating what this man has achieved in the last 2 years. He is a world kickboxing champion. He's had over 80 kickboxing fights, born in Nigeria, living in New Zealand. I mean, he's a fighting journeyman. He spent a lot of time in China. He's had a long, arduous road to be where he is today, and that is the UFC middleweight champion of the world. If we look at the people he's faced and beaten, I mean, he's been the best of the best. He's taken on arguably the greatest of all time, Anderson Silva, dispatched him. Kevin Gastelum followed up for the, I would say, #1 contender fight, followed by my favorite fighter, Robert the Reaper Whittaker, who he took out, I think it was a second round knockout, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, his resume says it all. Unfortunately for me, he's not one of my favorite fighters. I mean, he's beaten all my favorites. And I'm very wary of what he's going to do to Paulo Costa, who's another one of my favorites. But I mean, it's a largely anticipated fight. It's going to be something we've never seen before. Bull versus Matador, Paulo Costa's style, moving forward, pressing forward, non-stop. Adesanya, super accurate counter-puncher. This is going to be one for the books. Could be a fight of the year candidate if you do this. Looking at the early odds, it seems Adesanya is a little bit of a favorite. As Paulo Costa's my favorite, I'm not too sure what to do. I mean, am I going to make the emotional guess? Should I go with what I believe in? I don't know. If I were you, this is my pick for you guys. My feelings aside, Adesanya will take this one by decision. Moving on to the light heavyweight championship, which is going to be the co-main event for this card. We've got Dominik Reyes, who lost his last match to the greatest of all time and my favorite fighter, Jon Bones Jones, versus Jan Blachowicz, who has been on quite a win streak. I think he's won 7 of his last 8 fights. I think the last 3 were by knockouts. So, I mean, he's definitely put his name in the hat. He was due to fight Jon Jones before my man vacated the title with a move to heavyweight coming up. So, for the first time in about 10 years or so, we're going to have a new champion in the light heavyweight division. So it's an exciting time. I don't know who's going to win this one. It's a little bit of a tricky one. Dominik Reyes has only been fighting for a few years. He's a former football player. Didn't quite make it in the NFL. Moved to the UFC. Like I said, very impressive showing against the best fighter of all time. He took him all the way to the distance. Some thought he won. Some thought, listen, John took the fight. For me, as a John Jones fan, that was definitely a John victory. But it's going to be a tough one to score. I am again going to go with Dominik Reyes for this one. He's just got more athleticism. He seems to be more well-rounded. And Jan Blachowicz, though, don't get me wrong. When the boys are that big, light heavyweights, all it takes is one shot to get you out of there. So please, 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 be careful when you make that bet. You know, from my opinion, Reyes is the one for you. One of the feature fights on this card will be KaraFrance versus Brandon Royval. I think that's his name. I haven't seen him too much. This is for the featherweight division. Relatively new fighter. He just fought his first fight in the UFC against, can't quite remember actually, but it was against a ranked opponent, top 10 or top 11, 12, and he dispatched him with a choke in the second round. I remember watching that fight. I just can't quite remember who it was against, but yes, that's what he did. I was quite impressed. Never seen him before, but for a first outing, he did very well, very well. Prior to that, I heard he was on a 10-fight winning streak in other promotions. Haven't quite checked that out yet, but the one thing about this card is that it's not a deep card, but it's got one or two interesting fights. The man he's going up against, KaraFrance, is one of Israel Adesanya's training partners out at City Kickboxing. As you know, they've produced so many champions at the moment. Alex Volkanovski, Dan Hooker's there, who's not a champion, but another incredible fighter. Israel Adesanya, and what do you expect from all those guys? Absolutely amazing strikers. They will take you out the park, pick you out from the outside. And from what I've seen from this other chap, he's got quite a wrestling pedigree, so it's going to be another bull versus matador fight. Excited to see how it goes. I would pick KaraFrance as the favorite to take this one, but this is my pick. For the underdog who's probably going to make you the most money and who has the most likely opportunity to win. If that's what you're after, that will be my pick for this week. So, you've heard my picks. As usual, as you would know, I would normally have JB here to do his picks, but I mean, unfortunately, he's not going to be here today. So, here they are. So he's gone with the same, he's gone against me. He's chosen Costa against Adesanya, which is very interesting. I don't know where he got that from. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to take some shots next week. Reyes with me, KaraFrance with me, Vieira and Dawood. He's been very brave to make those calls, but I hope it works out for you guys. Guys, remember, don't make the mistake of not picking the right person. Put your bets down, get your money down. Most likely than not, with our accuracy, you will get your money out.